Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. It's that time of the week again to talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that's been going on Disney Plus. So, holy crap. What a difference from the previous episode. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the episode that a lot of people love more than the previous parts of the series for many different reasons. And I'm telling you also right now, you could really feel and see the difference in the quality between episode 4 and episode 5 because wow, it is absolutely nuts the differences between the two. At the same time, while I do love this episode, and we're going to get into the minutia of it specifically, there is still a lot of other problems and issues that do pop up, and one of the big things about it is how this one episode, as good as it was, doesn't wipe out a lot of the issues that many people, myself included, have had with the series up to this point. And the sad part is we only have one more episode. Episode 6 is right around the corner. That's going to be the series finale, as far as we know. There's been talk about another season of Kenobi and other things happening. Some of the stuff probably changing with the season finale. There's a whole bunch of unknowns at the moment, but hopefully within the next couple of days, we know what's up. But anyway, as I'm talking about this stuff, make sure you guys leave me a comment down in the comment section. Like the video, of course, if you haven't already. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel because I'm telling you, there's a lot of content I've been putting up, including stuff like this about Obi-Wan Kenobi and other Star Wars related things that you'll definitely want to check out. So let's get into the actual episode proper. I'm actually recording this early in the morning, so let me take a sip of this coffee real quick. Love my coffee in the morning. And it's a rainy day outside too, so it's perfect to talk about Kenobi. So, let's get into the minutia of this episode. Now, this episode is kind of like a direct result of some of the things that happened in the previous episode. Obi-Wan Kenobi goes back to the little kind of path base, which isn't really the Rebel Alliance at this point. It's still all these different people that are just gathered that don't like the Empire, that are trying to help surviving Jedi and surviving people that are on the run from the Empire. We meet up with Camille Nunjadi's character that's just there for whatever reason, just randomly there. Roken's there. Tia, which is the girl from Game of Thrones. And of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi and young Leia. So they come back to this place. They're getting ready to actually get into all these different transports and stuff. And the Empire is hot on their tails. They're coming, right? Reva has been promoted to Grand Inquisitor by Darth Vader. We get this really cool shot of Darth Vader that it's in the Star Destroyer in hyperspace, which is pretty dope. I'm not going to lie. That actually looked pretty cool. But anyway, he gives her the brand new, rank. And she goes down to the planet to go pick up Obi-Wan or to go kind of mess up a whole bunch of things with all these other people. Now, the crazy part about this is that we finally, in this episode, after 5 episodes, we finally start to get details and answers to a lot of the cryptic things about Reva's origin. Not only number one, it's confirmed that she was the Padawan that was shown at the beginning of the series during Order 66 at the Jedi Temple, which we all knew and saw coming. That was pretty obvious from the get-go. Yet at the same time, we also get a clarification of what her motivation is and stuff that Obi-Wan, as they have this conversation behind a blast door, after the Empire shows up, they're trying to break down this blast door to get at everybody inside. And Obi-Wan's like, you know what? Let me go talk to this girl and actually go find out what's up. And they have a conversation. And he says, how do you know that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker? He would have totally murked you if he knew that that information was out there. Who are you? And through conversing between each other, he figures this out and explains to the audience who Reva actually is. And Reva makes it a point to let it be known that she's actually trying to hunt Darth Vader. She's actually trying to get revenge on Darth Vader. Now, while I appreciate the answers, I'm totally down with it. I wish we were getting this stuff in episode 2 or episode 3 at the latest, because it's episode 5 now. We're literally at the penultimate episode of this series, and only now are we starting to get stuff that would have given people a lot more insight into Reva herself. I really believe, and I saw this being said by somebody else in one of their reviews of episode 5, that if we would have gotten this information at the very start of the series, like episode 1 or 2, probably I would say more episode 2, if we would have gotten that much earlier, a lot of people would have liked Reva's character much better. And I think that the trajectory of where she's going and a lot of other stuff that's been getting explained, people would have been more willing to accept. As it is right now, so late into the series, as good as this is, I think it's a little bit too late for a lot of it. At the same time, part of it doesn't make a lot of sense. I saw this being said I believe it was Angry Joe and a couple other people that I saw reviewing this, that her motivation to get at Darth Vader, to get revenge on Darth Vader, kind of is a little bit of hypocritical, because she wants to kill the person that killed all her friends and stuff, but at the same time, all these years since she's been a Padawan up to the point where she joined the Inquisitorius, she's probably been doing the exact same thing that Darth Vader did at the Jedi Temple, just to a lot more other people outside of that, and normal people included, besides Force sensitives. There's a lot of real weird loopholes, I guess you could say, but regardless, though, let's move on with the episode, because we'll be here all day discussing stuff like that. There's been other people that have had other in-depth discussions about those specific things, but I could tell you right now, there is a lot of loopholes there that just seem a little weird. So, besides that, eventually, Reva uses her lightsaber to cut through the blast door. Imagine this, right? There's all these lasers and crazy things that the Imperial troopers, the stormtroopers brought with them, including the elite troopers, trying to blast at this door. Couldn't open it, but Reva magically cuts it open like a stick of butter with her lightsaber. It's just, again, another weird decision. Eventually, there's a big shootout in a hallway. Tia, eventually, within all the chaos and stuff, which, by the way, before I even say that, Obi-Wan Kenobi does look pretty cool, swinging his lightsaber. He looks pretty dope, deflecting blaster fire and stuff. But they're in this hallway, right? All the stormtroopers are firing at everybody. They don't hit nobody, which is funny enough. But Tia... yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Tia, or the actress from Game of Thrones, her character, she actually sacrifices herself, and the droid that we saw a couple episodes back that was helping her out, they sacrificed themselves in order to save Obi-Wan and everybody else. In the midst of all of this, okay, because I should say, I know I'm jumping all over the place, young Leia actually is sent to go, tinker around with some of the extra... some sort of generator or certain thing in order to open up the door that's like a blast door above these ships that everybody's trying to use to evacuate the planet. So it gives her something to do within this episode. Mind you, her little Lola bot is still there, and it's still, I guess you could say, it's got like a tracker or some sort of change in their programming from the last episode, which is fine. I don't mind it. A lot of people seem to have a big issue with that because it just, again, another one of those things that seemed weird, but it didn't bother me as much, that particular thing. So there's this shootout, there's this back and forth. Eventually, Reva and the stormtroopers get a hold of Obi-Wan, okay? Or at least he gives himself up, right? And what happens is, okay, they have this conversation. They talk a little bit more about how Reva is trying to get at Darth Vader. Again, very brief, back and forth until finally they bring Obi-Wan back into the enclosure, right? For whatever reason, this isn't one of those things that did bother me because it didn't make any sense. You have Obi-Wan, you have him completely just shot, you have him completely just taken down, right? Well, not shot, but captured, right? And then instead of just bringing him into your ship in order to hold on to him away from the actual area of which you're going to raid, you bring him back into that area with just two stormtroopers just there. Mind you, he's a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master. And it's what are you doing? It just seems like that was a very careless decision and one of those weird writing decisions where people were like, wait a second, there's been 100 other ways that this could have gone better. But regardless, though, I digress. So eventually, Darth Vader shows up and he's got beef. He's pissed off. He's ready to take down Obi-Wan because he's like, okay, let's do this, right? Now, I forgot to mention something at the beginning of the episode. Some of you were like, wait a second, why haven't you talked about this? Because I wanted to talk about this as soon as I brought up Vader. One thing that this episode did do very well, okay? They introduced flashbacks. Finally, we got our Clone Wars flashbacks, but they did it in a way that was a nice parallel and a switching back and forth between the flashback with Obi-Wan and Anakin before the time of episode 2, because Anakin has both his hands. He's actually still a Padawan. It's a duel between the two of them, and they keep flip-flopping back and forth between what was happening back then and what's happening now with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I like that. I thought that was something very cool. This is the type of thing that people wanted to see throughout this entire show. They really wanted to see this type of thing. They felt like this is what the way that the show was marketed to them. This is what they were promised for a long time. And this is what the majority of the show should have been. Not obviously every single episode, but from the very get-go, this is what the show should have been, I feel like. And a lot of other people seem to agree with me because you don't necessarily need to have Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker all the time, but have a lot of these different things scattered throughout that kind of guide the viewer through the show. Because for the majority of the time, all the way up till about episode 4, I would say episode 3, episode 4, we've gotten a lot of stuff that really doesn't make it feel like a quote-unquote Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And I don't mean just Reva and a lot of the focus on her and young Leia. A lot of that stuff, especially with young Leia, didn't bother me too much, but I could totally understand why people had an issue and were questioning a lot of things, with much of the focus being on Reva and other aspects outside of Obi-Wan Kenobi and what's going on with him. I totally relate to that and I totally sympathize with that. But we finally get this type of stuff, which feels like this is what the show should have been for the majority of the time. But anyway, Darth Vader shows up. He's pissed off. He's ready to go. He tells Reva to stay put. He goes inside. He does a really cool thing by grabbing one of the transport ships, which, by the way, within the time frame that he's coming at this ship and going on the inside of the enclosure, Obi-Wan Kenobi has escaped. Exactly proving my point. It's like, why would you bring him back in there with just like 2 stormtroopers? It's really silly. But he escapes. He runs back over to where the ship is at, with the rest of the actual Rebel Alliance. Leia does her thing where they open up the blast doors. She saves Lola by removing some little tracking device or a little kind of like a little adapter on there, which totally changes Lola back to a good Lola, a good bot, a good droid. But Darth Vader's coming in. Everybody's back in their ships. He finds one ship that's taken off, grabs it with the Force, brings it down, okay, rips it up, which looked awesome. That was peak Vader right there. That's peak Vader with a problem that you don't want to see. Well, I mean, we want to see it, but you don't want to be in the receiving end of that. And it ends up being that ship was empty, completely empty. It was a decoy. And then another ship takes off with everybody else inside. Some people call shenanigans on this, and I get why, because it feels like Vader would have sensed that, or he was so angry and so like upset and like narrow-minded, he just didn't notice it like that. But he could have also just like used the Force to grab that other ship. But again, for the sake of plot, I'm totally fine with it. But once again, too, we go back to this parallel and switching back and forth between the flashbacks and what's happening now. And they're trying to make this kind of like good parallel and good connection with a lesson that Anakin had to learn back in the day, with him just, being so focused on victory and so narrow-minded by also forgetting like all the other things around him and all the other aspects of what's going on within the conflict. And I like that. I thought that was cool. Okay, for the sake of plot, I'll let this slide. Then once that happens, the ship gets away. Reva shows up behind Darth Vader, and she proceeds to try to take a swing at him with her lightsaber. And what we proceed to see is probably one of the dopest encounters with a lightsaber battle, especially with Darth Vader, that we have probably ever seen in Star Wars. Hands down. It's not because that, Reva got totally dismantled and clowned throughout the entire scenario, the entire situation here, but it's more because we've seen Darth Vader fight in a specific way, and now we see him fighting a very different way, depending on his opponent. And this one, he just really uses the Force to clown this woman, like straight up. He not only doesn't pull out his own lightsaber, he actually still has it on his hilt the entire time, but he not only uses the Force to dodge her attacks and repel her, he grabs her lightsaber, detaches it, gives her half of the lightsaber so he could use it in a duel with her, and then proceeds just to totally just break her down like an easy math problem, like some easy short division. It was absolutely crazy, and it really showed the difference in skill and the difference in experience between Darth Vader and Reva. And it ends up being, I thought for a second, right when he knocked her down and took her lightsaber, he was dual wielding. This kind of reminded me a little bit of Attack of the Clones or Anakin Skywalker when he first used that dual wielding style that we see him use against Count Dooku. I thought we were going to get a dual wielding Vader for a brief second, like if Reva would have pulled down another lightsaber or something. That would have been sweet. But you get this cool image of Darth Vader dual wielding the 2 lightsabers of the Inquisitor lightsaber, the little spinning one, and eventually he stabs her. They got some flashbacks back and forth between Reva's memories at the Jedi Temple and Anakin Skywalker executing Order 66, right up to the point where she gets stabbed. It's a really cool scene that plays out, and I thought that this was probably one of the better ones in the series, besides the flashbacks with Obi-Wan. Now, we also get at the same time, we get to see the Grand Inquisitor return. We all knew he was coming back. We all knew exactly that he wasn't dead, especially if you've been following Star Wars for a long time. You know that he shows up in Rebels. What I think is really bad, though, however, this show doesn't explain how he returns. It doesn't explain why he survived. It doesn't explain why he's able to survive the death blow that Reva gave to him. He doesn't say it. He doesn't mention it in dialogue. It would have been something nice to see there. It would have been nice to say or have like a witty like banter that he's like talking down to Reva and saying like, oh, it pays to have 2 stomachs, or it pays to have a extra stomach so that way when something happens to you, you could survive. We don't get anything like that. He does talk a little smack though, which is like in line with his character, and it makes sense for what he's doing because him and Vader are standing over Reva injured after being stabbed straight up by Darth Vader, which the other thing that people bring up, and this is totally understandable, why doesn't Vader and the Inquisitor kill her right there? It feels like they should just murk her right there and it'd be done and over with. It's one of those things that just, again, for the sake of plot, does not make any sense. This is one of those times where I won't let it pass because it clearly would be the case if the writing was a little bit better that Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor would have killed her right there. Mind you, she tried to kill Darth Vader just now. She attempted to kill the Grand Inquisitor and she thought he was dead for a long time. It's just one of those things is like, okay, you've gotten more than enough chances, including the first time back in episode 3 when Darth Vader could have snapped her neck. He gave her another chance. Like, look how many times this woman has gone a second win or an extra life here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things where I relate to everybody like complaining about it because it does not make any sense. Anyway, they talk a little smack and they leave. At the same time, while Obi-Wan is in the, was it the Rebellion ship or the Way or the Path ship? Okay, because again, we can't call them the Rebellion because they haven't gotten that name yet. But as they're going away, Obi-Wan starts to get a bad feeling about this, for lack of a better phrase. And Reva discovers his communicator where it has a message from Bail Organa. Now, earlier in the episode, I didn't mention, Bail Organa calls Obi-Wan. He says, like, listen, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? If I don't hear from you in a while, I'm going to go check out what's up with Owen on Tatooine. He basically sends that message, and Obi-Wan doesn't delete it, and Reva discovers it, and now she knows about the existence of Luke Skywalker. Here's the problem with this. And I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with this. It's been discussed already ever since the episode came out, but I think it's going to be even more of a problem come episode 6. A lot of the stuff that's going to go down here is either just going to involve Reva, which she should not know about the existence of Luke Skywalker because Luke Skywalker in A New Hope has no idea about what a lightsaber actually is. He can't see a lightsaber, even an Inquisitor lightsaber. He can't see that because he doesn't know what that thing is. Otherwise, it would be weird with continuity. But at the same time, you can't have Darth Vader involved in any of this at this point. So that whole extra duel that apparently we were promised with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, is that going to take place on Tatooine? Because it can't, to be honest with you, because as soon as Darth Vader is on Tatooine for any reason, he's going to find Luke Skywalker, and it's a wrap for the original trilogy. It doesn't make any sense. At the same time, a lot of things, and I really don't want to get too much into the leaks because some of the leaks have been wrong, but the majority of them have been kind of spot on in some cases. If this is how things are going to go, this is going to put us in very weird and very divisive territory. And I know it sucks to say that. I know it sucks that leaks do happen and a lot of stuff is, again, all over the place with this type of thing. But if this is going to go down the way I think this is going to go down, a lot of people are not going to enjoy this finale. And I think it's going to suck seeing the discourse. If you didn't think it was bad before, wait until this next episode drops and it ends up being the way that I think it's going to happen. Again, without discussing the specifics of the leaks, I know that sounds vague, but if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. And it's going to suck because a lot of people are not going to like this. I just don't think this is a good decision creatively because it feels like they're trying to involve Luke in some way, which is fine. If anything, the majority of the show should have been Obi-Wan on Tatooine protecting Luke from all this other stuff. I think that would have been a far better show than what we ended up getting now. And I'm not the only one that feels like that, by the way. It just feels like, this is kind of like a rush and a quick sprint at the end. And that kind of is a little weird. So here's hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm wrong about this. Here's hoping that whatever we see in the season finale, which apparently the rumor is season finale is going to be like an hour and a half. That would be sweet because these episodes have been pretty short. But even if it's not an hour and a half, even if it's at the max amount of an hour, okay, I'll be cool with it as long as we get an interesting and nice finale because I want to have that same feeling that I had when I was watching episode 5 now, but with episode 6. Don't make it like another episode 4. For God's sakes, please don't make it like what happened with episode 4 because I'm telling you, if it's anything on that level of quality, a lot of people are going to be pissed off. A lot of people are going to be upset, myself included. So anyway, I know that was a lot to swallow. I know that was a lot to get into, but those are my overall thoughts about Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 5. We only got one more episode. It's almost time for this thing to end. Some people said we're going to be getting a season 2. I don't necessarily believe that until they finally open up and say what's up. Same thing also with some spin-off shows, but we'll talk about that stuff after watching episode 6, where we could really talk about this entire series in full. But again, let me know your thoughts about Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 5 or just Obi-Wan Kenobi as a series down below in the comment section. Leave me a like on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already too. We are literally right on the cusp of 3,000 subscribers on the channel. If you guys could show some love, bring some friends, tell them to subscribe to the channel. Let's go even higher, go past 3K, and let's hopefully get beyond that at some point. But anyway, I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.